Start for Trice. That's Chase, and what a start for Cincinnati. And he has the football for Taluba. Bijan Robinson, he's going to have his first touchdown. Gibbs out of the backfield right away. Oh, yeah, there's no question that he was grabbed. They got ridiculous. They got Gibbs one-on-one with Andrew Van Ginkel in space, and that was it.
And this is, again, it's man-to-man. It's one-on-one, and he's underneath. He loses his balance. Block Bowers is one of those guys that has a – and this is –
You got to love when the intro video, Brant, ends with "Let's Eat," as you were right before I clicked go live on this cast, shoveling some fries in your mouth. Welcome back, everybody, to another edition of the Fatboyz Dynasty Podcast, coming at you live on the YouTube channel presented by the Fantasy Holics. I'm Bo. That is Brant. Brant, we've had almost a week now to digest the NFL draft last weekend. We've almost had a week to recuperate from our 4-hour live with our main man Patrick coming on and helping us out, which really just means it's now time to start getting in and criticizing these NFL GMs, these teams for not doing what we thought they should have. And it's only right that we come at them this week and talk about some winners and losers, Brant.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, you talk a lot of crazy stuff happened in that first round of the draft. We were shocked sitting on air. Shedeur Sanders sliding all the way down to the fourth, maybe fifth. I could be wrong. But I mean, and that was just a crazy thing in its aspect. And then, you had some guys jumping up above everyone else. And it was a good, crazy draft. And you have a little clearer picture of what some of these teams are trying to do or what their outlook is going to be.
Mm-hmm. No, and I think you're right, Brent. I think we guess at what the team's identities are going to be. We try to guess at what roles are going to be what. There's a lot of interesting trades take place, like in between, the Super Bowl and NFL draft, where we as dynasty managers kind of like try to speculate who's going to have value for cheap. Like, oh, do I go buy this player? And I feel like I hit a home run today, but then the NFL draft comes around. It's like, oh, that guy that I thought was going to be a fantasy darling is now buried on a roster that's not great, and I think that happened to some players. I think other players maybe not, but I think it's imperative that the Fatboyz get out here and put their winners and losers out, Brant. So I'm going to defer to you. Do you want to start with losers and go down that list and then work winners, or do you want to go back and forth, winner, loser, winner, loser? However you want to do it. You take us away and tell us how we're doing this.
Let's start with the losers. That way we can end the cast on a brighter note of who the winner is and everything else. And I want to do something with this, like as we talk about the losers, who are some guys that you maybe, if you feel the same way, who are some guys maybe you're trying to go after and get if you don't like this as there as losers? Who's a receiver that maybe you do like if you talk about a losing receiver? Not quite a winner in the draft, but maybe stayed where it was. Didn't win, didn't lose. I don't want to give away our winners too early.
Okay.
So I'm going to start with the first one, and I think the biggest loser of this draft is Najee Harris. You got a younger, possibly bigger. I didn't look at the stats, but I saw some pictures, and Hampton is an absolute tank of a man outside of pads. I know that sounds a little questionable there, but this dude is huge, and I mean, he's going to fill in for Najee. It's not going to happen right away. This is going to be a 50-50 split probably right out the gate. Maybe. If Hampton shows that he's got the younger legs and he's got the juice and he's got the energy, Najee only got paid pretty much backup running back money for 1 year deal, and Hampton got a first round draft capital. I think Najee may have been one of the biggest losers of this draft.
Yeah, I actually had Najee written down as my number one loser as well, Brant. And you can try to look at the silver lining. Oh, Najee only signed there as a 1-year deal anyway. Probably still going to get some work since he was, early pickup for them. But at the same time, Najee had 3-down back upside right after he signed in an offense that we think is going to pound the rock to instantly, like at best case for Najee, probably a 50-50 split towards the middle of the season. I think Najee probably starts out getting the share until Hampton gets like the game speed and stuff for the NFL figured out. But yeah, I mean, Najee went from a clear bell cow in a system that should yield a top 10 back if there was only one to now just kind of hanging out. And I would say that almost guarantees there's no chance he is in LA for more than just the 1-year deal. So yeah, I agree, Brent. I think Najee's my biggest loser as well. So won't even spend any time going over a different one here. I'll just yield back to you and let you get into your second loser.
Before I jump into that, the other thing is maybe they're not going to pound the ball as much as we all thought. They added Trey Harris, who was arguably in most consensus ranking, a top 5 to 7 wide receiver in this draft. Mm-hmm. So maybe they're going to want to get that more balanced offense go with Johnston there and Ladd. And then they added a tight end too, did they not?
I'm not sure about the tight end.
I think that was in the free agency, but then also with Trey Harris. So they may want to open that book up just a little bit longer or a little bit more. Another loser is, I'm going to say a name now, and maybe he's not the loser. Maybe he does kind of help out a little bit, but I still think that his value is going to take a huge hit. And I still think he'll be fantasy relevant. That's Nico Collins. You added Jaden Higgins. You added Jalen Noel. I wanted to rhyme it, man. I was trying to get it right.
You were. You
added Noel. You added Higgins. In my mind, this is telling you Tank Dell's done. There's probably no chance that he's probably ever going to come back, be a Houston Texan. So he's a loser here. Unfortunately, I hate to say that with the devastating injury the guys had the last 2 years. But I think Nico takes a huge hit with the addition of those two receivers. I know Diggs is gone, but Diggs really wasn't a huge factor. He got hurt down the stretch too, but Nico was blowing up down the stretch for fantasy. And I think they prove it. They're going to spread this ball out. They're going to move the ball, but it's not just going to be a one-man show anymore.
Yeah, so again, playing devil's advocate, I almost want to argue a little bit here, Brant, because it's like, yes, I understand where you're coming from, but at the same time, Diggs is gone, Tank Dell's gone. I do still see a way for Nico to be the guy, but I do think you're right. I think Higgins was one of those guys, and I came on air and I said it. If he went to a landing spot that I liked a lot, he could be the best, or at least year one, best wide receiver in this class. I don't feel that way about him anymore, obviously, because I don't think he's going to play Batman in that offense. He might be Robin to Nico Collins, but yeah, it definitely does go from looking like a Lions target share for Nico Collins to, at the very least, a little more humble amount of targets, just because of the fact that you're going to get these two rookies that you drafted pretty early involved. So yeah, I agree with you on this one, Brand.
Yeah, I think go ahead.
Go ahead.
I think this is a guy that I'm going to ship now, just for higher upside guy, maybe a draft capital to go after a Tet or somebody that's really going to solidify themselves as a number one target there within their offense. JSN, I don't think you're going to get it straight up, but that's where I would try to go is a guy that's going to get the lion's share of the targets.
Okay. I'm going to actually stay in the state of Texas and talk about Dak Prescott as a loser. Really, the Cowboys in general. I thought this was a draft that really set up well for them to, address the running back issue early with a stud running back. I thought, you could get a second fiddle wide receiver to play to CeeDee Lamb. So, Dak doesn't have to throw all these questionable balls trying to force stuff to CeeDee Lamb. And the Dallas Cowboys, well, Jerry Jones mainly did Jerry Jones things. He didn't, right? They did add Jaden Blue and Phil Maffa late at the running back position. I think one of those guys will have some fantasy relevancy, but I don't think it's anything sexy for Dak. I think Dak has been a fringe quarterback one in fantasy for the last couple of years. Had some down years, had a big, strong year a couple of years back, but I feel like Dak's fading And the Cowboys, granted, they did address offensive line, so that's important. But as far as weapons go, I feel like Dak went into this looking like it was probably going to add some stuff to really solidify, his skill position weapons, and it just didn't happen. So we're going into the offseason with a running back room that's questionable, just like it was last year. Rico Dowdle held his own, but you're coming into this year and it's a destroyed and beat up Javonte Williams, a has-been in Miles Sanders, and then
destroyed and beat up Miles Sanders,
and then two huge question marks here out of the rookie draft. And I just sit here and wonder if we're not going to look at this offense and say, hey, it's kind of one-dimensional again. And because of that, Dak is downgraded fantasy-wise, and CeeDee Lamb may take a small hit because of that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. They're going to be able to hone in on CeeDee Lamb. They're going to be able to really hone in on slowing that down, because there really is no pass attack. Yes, Dak does have a phenomenal arm. CeeDee Lamb is one of the greatest receivers right now in the game. But you can't just expect that to work. And I really think the draft made that backfield even more murky too. Like, you and me talked that Javonte Williams or Miles Sanders could end up taking over that backfield prior to the draft. And then you add two more guys saying, yeah, we don't know if we really trust him, but we do trust CeeDee Lamb to be out there by himself again in a whole nother year. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I absolutely agree that the Dallas in general, that offense is definitely taking a big hit this year.
Okay. All right, Brent, tell me your last loser here.
So I'm going to go with two guys here, and that's the Jaguars backfield. And they're not as so much as complete losers, but they added Bashaw Tootin and LaQuint Allen out of Syracuse. Both running backs, they got 4th and 7th round draft capital, nothing too extravagant or everything. But you have no ties with the new coaching staff, have no ties to Tank Bigsby or Travis Etienne. But they went out and they got these guys. Now, I do know the new head coach was able to, down there in Tampa Bay, he made Rachaad White and name slipping my head, who's Bucky Irving, both top 24 backs last year. So there is a path for both of these backs to have that there and be that spot. So, but it makes it so murky. Is it going to be Tank Bigsby? Is Travis Etienne going to continue to be the guy? Or is Tootin going to be? Tootin's a great back. He was phenomenal. I talked about him earlier in the offseason. They have ties to those. So where are they going to go with this? So it really makes that backfield murky. It's going to drop Travis Etienne. It's going to drop Tank Bigsby. And you got to really think about this and watch how camp and everything develops before you can even start drafting, in redrafts or anything.
Yeah, it almost feels like in a a dynasty landscape, if you have one, you want to have them all. Otherwise, it feels like you're going to be left out, in the rain with no umbrella on those brands. So definitely has created a murky situation. It almost makes me wonder if one of those vets doesn't make the 53-man roster, because obviously I think if you draft both of these guys, you're probably going to have them on the roster. But it'll be interesting to see, how that shakes out come training camp. So absolutely. My last loser, Brent, is more fun for me than I feel like it should be as an Atlanta Falcons fan to bring this up. And I feel like New Orleans Saints were the biggest losers from this entire draft. I really do. That team had so many holes and so many spots. And not only do the New Orleans Saints not make any sexy acquisitions, you didn't, make a play for Jackson Dart. You didn't, just wait super late and draft like a Will Howard or a Dylan Gabriel or hell, even Shadur Sanders as much as he fell. You went in the second round and drafted Tyler Shuck, the last player in NFL history to be drafted that was born in the 1900s, Brant, which, yes, that makes me feel old, and it should make you feel old as well. However, for New Orleans Saints fans, you got to be sitting there going, what the heck? I talked to one of our buddies at work that is a New Orleans Saints fan, and his initial thought was, why the hell did you draft a quarterback in the second round that can't hit passes, that had to be around for this long because he wasn't good enough to come to the NFL? And again, like I said, New Orleans Saints had so many holes to address, and they really honestly had an okay draft. But they waved the white flag on this season, Brant. They're not competing. They don't want to compete. They're not expecting to compete. In my mind, this New Orleans Saints team could be in play for a top 3 pick next season.
Mm-hmm.
And they solidified some spots for the future. But really, this may be the most unappealing football team in the league next year, with the exception of, I think, Olave and Kamara, honestly.
But the man can't hit a pass to Olave. That's what we're going to be talking about. But now the question arises with that. Are they going to make a play at Aaron Rodgers just to have a competitive, or to try to be competitive this year?
I don't know if they have salary cap to space to go after Rodgers, really, after signing the rookie class.
That is true. So let's move on to our winners. By no means did I do this on purpose, but some of my winners are actually going to coexist with my losers. One of the biggest winners, I think, and it's Joe Mixon. We get another year of Joe Mixon being the only true bell cow in the backfield at Houston. I don't think they added anybody in the offseason. I would double check that as I go on. They only added Woody Marks in the draft in the 4th round. So you get another year of Joe Mixon being the guy underneath center, or not underneath, behind the QB, behind CJ Stroud, catching passes, catching the dump offs, doing the main business of a bell cow back. He's not going to be threatened. Dameon Pierce is still the only thing that's really threatening him in the backfield there. I know if you look, they do have quite a bit of running backs, but Joe Mixon is head and shoulders, in my mind, still going to stay above them and be a bell cow back this year. You could be talking, I know he fell off at the end of last year, but they also had one of the toughest schedules down the stretch for running backs. And that could change this year as you look at the schedules that come out. He's still only 28 years old. He's got 8 years. So you should get another full year of Joe Mixon to be able to be a top 20 back this year.
Yeah, listen, the Joe Mixon stuff has felt for the last couple of years like the cliff was coming, and it was kind of just going to teeter off and then plummet. But here we are again, Brant, where I think that little engine's still climbing the hill. We haven't seen the, aforementioned fall off the cliff yet. I know that as a Mixon owner in our home league, the league that obviously you and I are is most near and dear to us, because that's the one that gives us the bragging rights over the people we see every day. You've been riding the Joe Mixon train for a long time at this point. And every year it seems like at the end of the season, you're like, well, this is the year I try to shop Mixon to try to get out while there's still value. And then it's like, here we go into the next season. And it's like, the value's still there. It's too good for you to move him. So yeah, I agree with you again. Mixon, in a running back draft class that was so deep, for them to not have added anybody that really is going to pose a threat to him, I think it just really proves that they're still willing to ride Mixon until the wheels fall off, Brant.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you talk about accidental winners and losers. Somehow, some way, Brant, I've written down 3 quarterbacks as my winners here. So I'm unapologetically a fan of some of these quarterbacks, apparently. So I'm going to start off with the most obvious one, in my opinion. That's Caleb Williams. The Bears come out. They fall in love with Loveland out of Michigan. Ben Johnson comes out and says everything right about this kid in his pro day. It reminds him of Sam Laporta, and he could see a Sam Laporta rookie season for Loveland, which is just amazing. And not to mention, listen, I understand the hype's going to die on him hardcore, but he's still got Cole Kmet as his tight end 2. Not many teams have a tight end 2 as good as Cole Kmet.
Right.
And then the one that really shocked me the most, Brant, was Luther Burden falling to the Bears in the 2nd round, which my love for Luther Burden. And listen, this coincides with the fact that offensive line was completely revamped in free agency. They spent a ton of money on it. They addressed it. This team, I think, could be a top 5 offense next season. Don't love DeAndre Swift out of the backfield. But however, I think Caleb Williams is a massive winner from this. Kept most of his core minus Keenan Allen and added some really, really exciting young rookies, and they weren't late round picks. This was the Bears addressed it. Ben Johnson addressed it. Ben Johnson said, I want to have the explosive offense. I'll worry about the defense later. I love this for Caleb Williams.
Well, if you think Chicago always has a decent defense, they're always there. They still have the pieces. I don't think they lost too much in free agency on that defense. So I think the defense will still be competing for a top 10, top 15 defense. So he's going, all right, if you guys can hang him to, 20 points, I'm going to score 21 at least. And DeAndre Swift, I think this is kind of a foreshadowing of the future. I could be mistaken. I did not look. I think he's got 1 year left. So he's like, you know what? I won't push him out of town quite yet. I'll let him play 1 year with me, and then I'm going to push him out again. And they'll go after one next year's draft, but they want to see what they got in that offense. Luther Burden's going to be able to be moved all over. It's going to be DJ Moore being able to move. You're going to have to interchange all these guys because Moore and Burden both will thrive in the slot here. It's going to be fun, but I hate saying this. It's going to be fun to watch the Bears, especially when I'm saying this as I went and saw a 6-3 football game in person this year with the Seahawks and Bears. But the Bears should be fun to watch this year.
All right, real quick before we move on, Fantasy Incorporated does ask, but do the Bears have too many weapons, only so many targets to go around?
We were talking about that with the Detroit Lions a couple years ago. Sam Laporta, Jameson Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Gibbs, and Montgomery in the backfield there.
New nickname
do
for
they
Montgomery.
Have too many? Yeah. Do they have too many weapons? I don't think they do. Keenan Allen's no longer on the roster. I do believe he's already still a free agent. So you're really talking, you got Rome, who's going to be an outside guy. He's a big body. He's going to stay on the outside. Then you got DJ. And I do agree with the two tight ends. Maybe that makes them have too many weapons. I don't think Cole Kmet. God, that's going to be really tough. I think those guys might be issues in fantasy. One game you might see Cole Kmet blow up for 20 points. In the next game it might be Loveland. So that could be the issue there. But I do think that they have plenty of weapons, and I don't think it's going to be too many.
I'll say this, and I'll just leave it real short and sweet. I don't think in today's NFL you can have too many weapons. I don't know if that's a thing. Now, obviously, maybe if DJ Moore or somebody ends up being that what we're kind of used to, that sassy diva wide receiver one, and starts complaining about targets, maybe it gets to be an issue. But I think going into the season, I think the Bears are in a really, really nice spot. You never want to say this happens, but if they do have an injury someplace on that offensive side, I think it's just, hey, we just move on, and it is what it is. That targets get sprinkled someplace else. But I think the Bears are going to be really fun to watch, and I hate to say that as a guy who lives in Central Illinois.
Yeah, absolutely. So my next winner is going to tie along with one of my losers again, and that's Trevor Lawrence. You got a guy. You got Thomas Jr. on the outside. Now you have Travis Hunter going out there. You added another receiver. You added a dynamic threat. You traded up. You gave it away. You said, you know what? We believe in Trevor Lawrence. We're going to get you two great wide receivers on the outside, and we're going to fill it in. And there is so many targets to go around too. Trevor Lawrence is a huge winner with this trade up to go get Travis Hunter. They've already come out and said he's going to start on offense and sprinkle in the defense until he learns it. Travis Hunter is going to make T-Law so much more. Right now, he's quarterback. If I read this right, he's going off the board as like quarterback 15 in drafts right now. He finished as QB 11 last year, and you just added a phenomenal weapon. T-Law, you could be talking as a top 7 quarterback next year.
The final push over the edge that Trevor Lawrence needed to be what everybody's thought he was going to be since he came into the league, which we all give him credit for his rookie year. We give him a pass because Urban Meyer to the NFL should have never happened. That was a terrible experiment. But now we've got Brian Thomas Jr., who could be, the argument could be made as him being a top 10 wide receiver in the National Football League after his rookie season. Now we get Travis Hunter, the best, I would say, overall athlete in this entire draft. That if he's used the way he should be or could be on offense, I think he ends up making Trevor Lawrence just absolutely insane. I think you will see weeks this year where Trevor Lawrence is quarterback 1 on the week for fantasy. I don't know, so I want to say, top 3 or 4 as the season, but I think you will see some weeks with Trevor Lawrence being quarterback 1, Brent.
Absolutely.
All right, I'm going to ask you to put your earmuffs on and forgive me for this one a little bit, Brant, but I took Geno Smith and Pete Carroll as big winners in this draft. I think Pete Carroll coming to the Raiders at his age was kind of like, ugh. And then they come out and shock the league by trading for their franchise quarterback and Geno Smith at his age and then pay him. And it's like this team has Brock Bowers on it, and that's it. And they came in and they added a ton of offensive firepower. The obvious one, Ashton Genty in the first round, which for Geno, again, having a bona fide run game like this, we all know Pete likes to run the ball in certain situations. And I had to. I'm sorry, Brent. You can make a 28-3 joke to me later. And then they come back in the second round and they add a wide receiver who almost doesn't know how to drop the ball, and Jack Beck, a guy that you and I have spent time talking about this offseason, who's just got incredible hands. His catch win rate is insane. And then my favorite pick, who I don't want to say his name too much because I'd like to get him late in some drafts that's a steal, is Dante Thornton Jr. out of Tennessee, Brent. He's a guy that I talked about on here. Insane speed, 6'5", big frame. If this guy puts it all together, he could be nasty in the National Football League. And oh, by the way, you still have Jacoby Myers and the best tight end in football at this point, and Brock Bowers on this roster. I think you could potentially, I don't want to go crazy with this. I want to potentially say you could see Geno Smith's best fantasy season ever this season, Brant.
Yeah, absolutely. This team did everything right when it came to finishing out that offense. You're in one of the most high-powered divisions. You've got to score. So what did you do? You got Brock Bowers to for your tight end spot. Then you got Beck on the outside. You got Jacoby Myers taking the drag routes. You got Ashton Genty up the middle. Then you got Junior to take off the top there from Tennessee. This is absolutely, they are huge winners. Pete Carroll showed why he's been back and forth in the NFL. Pete Carroll showed why he had such a great run in Seattle. And as much as I hate to say it, he may be there for the long haul. I didn't think he would be, and they didn't address the quarterback at all. So they're trusting in Geno. This could be a phenomenal year for the Raiders.
Absolutely, Brant.
So one of my favorite winners, Bryce Young. We saw this coming on late last year of how great he was, how much it developed after getting benched. He was able to sit there. Oh, then again, you got the QB whisperer and Canales, who has made all these quarterbacks come alive. And then all of a sudden, let's bench Bryce. Let me work with this man for a couple weeks. Then he balls out. Let's go. I don't know. Let's make a phone call. Who do you want in the draft, Bryce? Go get Tet. Go get Tet. I want Tet. So Canales goes and gets Tet, the guy that Bryce Young asked for. Tet McMillan is going to wind up being the Chris Godwin of this offense, where he gets moved into the slot, gets the mismatches. This is going to be a phenomenal year for Bryce Young. You add Tet McMillan. You still got Chuba, who they paid because they believe in. The offensive line was starting to come. Then you still got Adam Thielen. This is going to be a phenomenal, great year for Bryce Young, and they did everything right in the draft. And Carolina always seems to put a pretty decent defense on the field. I'm not going to say any stellar defense, but they always seem to put a pretty decent on the field. So this is going to be phenomenal. Then you added Trevor Etienne later in the draft, Jimmy Horn Jr., who could be a little sleeper guy for them to fill in some roles, some receiving work. And then they added the tight end out of Notre Dame, Evans, because they apparently like him, just like Tommy Tremble. They just keep adding Notre Dame tight ends. But still, this is a team that they put a little firepower around. When it came to the offensive draft style, they just went skill position. Then they went over to the defense. So I absolutely love what they did for Bryce Young in this draft.
You know, you brought it up, so I'm going to bring it up now. How am I the only person in the fantasy world that's excited about Hunter Renfrow signing here? I loved Hunter Renfrow when he was with the Raiders. Quarterback play fell off towards the end, and then it was like the fake retirement. But, man, when Hunter Renfrow's on down around the goal line, he is a young Adam Thielen. I'm excited about Hunter Renfrow in this offense. I really am, Brand. I'm not going to lie. I don't think he's going to be fantasy relevant, but he might be fun to watch. And Bryce Young was fun to watch. He torched my Atlanta Falcons to end the season last year, and he looked great doing it. I hate to say it. I like Bryce Young. I'm a believer. I think it was interesting because it was like the Bears won that trade so lopsidedly, and then all of a sudden it's like Bryce Young's starting to come back. And here he is. And now we're going into next season where it's like, okay, the coach is in place, the offensive coordinator is in place, the weapons are now in place. Let's see what Bryce Young does with a full offseason of knowing he's the guy, knowing he's got the weapons, knowing he's got the support, and knowing the speed of the game. I think this could be a huge year for Bryce Young. I'm excited. I really am.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, here's the last quarterback I want to talk about, and this team I think is a huge winner from the standpoint of doing what they did. That's Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers, Brant. Matthew Golden in the first round. I will say I'm still not in love with Matthew Golden necessarily, but the Packers addressed something in the first round they haven't done in years. They went and got themselves a first-round offensive skill position player. They said, hey, Jordan, we're going to give you some weapons. And not only that, they added a guy in the third round that I like a lot too, and Savion Williams out of TCU. That guy can play all over the field. He could be Deebo Samuel-esque in that offense. I do think you see him line up in the backfield every so often. And, you know, that wide receiving core, I understand it's not like there's a bona fide alpha, but you just have the most amount of weapons in the National Football League that one team could possibly have. Mm-hmm. And you just got a lot faster as well. Could you imagine a 3rd and 7 situation, Brant, if I could paint you a picture here where you have Savion Williams in the backfield, Matthew Golden at one side, Christian Watson at the other, Tucker Kraft at your tight end position. Oh, and by the way, we're going to have Dontavian Wicks or Jaden Reed, whichever one you prefer, running out of the slot. How do you match up with that from a defensive standpoint, Brant? I don't know how you do that.
It's going to be tough, and their head coach there is phenomenal at drawing up plays and getting people in the right position at the right time. Now, Matthew Golden is I believe I heard somewhere he's the first time they've drafted a wide receiver in the first round since before he was born, Matthew Golden. So we know that was in 2000 somewhere, as you alluded to. But yeah, they did. They added Golden. They added the speed. I think they want to make Golden the guy. I think that's what they want to do.
And again, Brant, we talked about it last year with Xavier Worthy going to the right situation with Andy Reid, and Andy Reid being an offensive mind. I think the same things can be said for Matt LaFleur. I think if you were going to talk about a guy like Matthew Golden going someplace where he could be relevant in year one, Matthew LaFleur could be the guy to get him.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love this pick for the Green Bay Packers this year. Golden's a guy you've got to start looking at in your fantasy draft. So don't go jumping. Oh, he's the best receiver in the draft. I'm going to draft him at the 103. No, there's plenty of other people. Don't have the CEH slide with this. Yes, beautiful spot. Yes, beautiful quarterback. Beautiful coach. You got to start really considering drafting him now. And he may not just be that speed guy when it comes to Green Bay.
Javon Walker in 2002 was the last.
That's what I thought. I wasn't sure on the year, so I didn't want to throw it out, but I was like, it was either 2002 or 2004. I didn't remember, but I had heard it earlier this year while sitting around waiting on my car to get fixed earlier today. I was like, that's crazy to think of all those years that Rodgers needed a weapon. And you never got him one.
Never. But here we are, Brant. I think this was one of the – I said it several times during our live draft coverage that we did here on the cast. This was one of the most unique drafts we've seen in a long time. I think there was a lot of fantasy relevancy added through a lot of the first 3-4 rounds. We'll get a Puka Nacua from someplace this year, I think. And honestly, it's possible. And I'm just extremely excited to get, a little closer to the season, get to training camps, report, and get to see some of how these position battles shake out. I think this draft was great for not only the NFL, but for the fantasy industry. I think it's going to rejuvenate the running back position a lot. I'm just head over heels excited. I'm glad to get into it. I know you and I have some drafts coming up, so maybe next week we'll come on here and do a rookie mock draft, Brant.
Yeah, we'll either do a mock or maybe we'll cover one of the drafts that we're in the middle of. We do have the Fantasy Holics podcast, so maybe we'll jump on here and talk about how that's going and where that's going. Hopefully, I believe it's this weekend. I believe that there's a chance that you and me may be doing our co-owned draft this weekend. So it's going to be a fun time coming up. It's that time. It's really here, guys. Like I've been kind of, football. I don't know how much I really care right now because it's been that down period. Well, it's here, guys. It's here. The draft is done. It's time to start seeing these teams So thanks for joining in tonight. I think that's all we have for you. So, excuse me again. As always, stay hungry.
Stay fat, my friends.